And so here's the top 3 things that happened in 2023 that really surprised me. Number 1 is the new launch performance. While I kind of predicted that new launches will continue to do well in 2023, some of the standout performances really surprised me. If I bring us back to one of the earlier slides, Jayden hitting 2451 PSF in the OCR at 88%, so that's honestly something that way surpassed what I expected it to do. In terms of PSF, maybe not so much, right? Because I've said it quite a while ago that I predict OCR PSFs will definitely cross 2000 because of all the Lentor bits earlier on, but mid 2000 PSFs kind of knew that it might happen, but probably not so fast. I thought it would have been achieved for the higher floor units over at Jayden, and 88% sold. So this is one of the standout performers that shocked me, surprised me. Another one is actually Sceneca Residences, right? Crossing 2000 PSF in Tanah Merah. I mean, the way they bought the land cost was already there lah, but I didn't expect it to sell 60% of Sceneca Residences, so that was also some of a surprise to me. The performance of Grand Diamond, while I knew it was very sought after, very anticipated launch due to its location and the number of units, it crossing 55% sold. It's quite surprising. It didn't shock me, but you know, it's probably a bit more than I expected it to be, considering the PSF that it was launched at. And also because there's a lot of alternatives, right? There's 3 launches over there: Grand Diamond, Tembusu, and Continuum. So on this part, right, maybe you wrap up these 3 to analyze it together. So this really goes to show, right, that freehold properties really aren't that popular anymore. But then for the people that like to think contrarian, think on the flip side, then you know, is it time to consider some of those, especially if you notice that their quantums are not too far away from one another, right? So while I say surprise in terms of the new launch performance, surprise in terms of how some of the launches have performed, but I'm also surprised at how much some of them underperformed. Okay, such as Pinetree, which is one of my personal favorites for those of you who know, coming in at 29%, because fundamentally it's as strong, if not stronger, than some of those that's better performing. And also Continuum, right? Of course, if you see in terms of the PSF, like that is 200 PSF more than, let's say, Grand Diamond or Tembusu Grand. But if you really look into the nitty-gritty, the details of Continuum, right, the developers were actually quite smart to build some of the units a little bit smaller, so to give you a quantum that's actually very comparable to the other 2. So on that perspective, I was also quite surprised why a lot of them actually chose to take up some of the 99-year units as opposed to the similar quantum freehold ones lah. But of course, given time, I do expect all of this to continue to sell through pretty well. The second point that surprised me is the HDB price resilience. I mean, coming back to the data to show the bumper crop of MOP units in 2022, very naturally you expected prices to sort of kind of taper off, but continue on that uptrend, primarily, in my opinion, down to the new reclassification of HDBs, like I explained again earlier. So with the new prime and plus 10-year MOP and very restrictive resale conditions, it kind of have forced the demand, right? So had there not been a reclassification, why I feel prices would have tapered off, because a lot of the demand would have then gone to all these BTOs in all these central areas. But right now, people are kind of holding back, you know, thinking to themselves, do I really want to be locking myself up into 10 years? So what do? Right, if they don't want to pick those, they still want to buy in those areas, then they go into the resale market. So the demand has now gone into some of these centralized resale markets, and if you know, all those are your $1 million HDBs or very highly priced HDBs, and what that has done is to then push or keep the data moving upwards, the HDB price resilience. But this price resilience is not something you see across the board. For those of you or in the slightly further out regions with a lot of MOP units, then you do notice some of those units taking a little longer to sell, and also some of the prices not maintaining so well. So while the overall price index is going upwards, in certain areas I'm already starting to notice prices tapering off or coming down. And of course, lastly would be the lower land bids. A lot of us were sort of programmed into assuming that land bids will continue to come up. But this year, what has surprised me is the land bids coming down. Number one, the lower number of land bids, right? Let's give you some perspective, okay? So if over in 2017, right, we have Pinetree Residences, 24 bids done, right? This was the highest number in that period. The highest number in this period, ECs aside, right, turned out to be Clementi Avenue 1 with just 6 bids. Now, why is this happening? With all the new restrictive rules post 2018 now, with developer ABSD continuously climbing, increased construction costs and whatnot, notice a lot of developers now, it used to be each and every one of them go out on their own and try to buy the land on their own, but right now you see a lot more joint ventures, easily 2 if not 3, and they tend to like to bring a builder on board. You have this as perhaps a bit more like for like, right? Same thing, Toa Payoh, and these two plots are quite close to one another. We have Jam Residences, 14 developers bid for that land over in 2015, but this year, despite it being a very low supply area, Toa Payoh and consistently very good sell-through rate, only 3 developers bid for that plot. So what surprised me is the low number of bidders for the plots, but also one thing that really surprised me, it's the lower land cost, lower land bids. As you can see over here, right, Jalan Tembusu in 2022, that turned out to be Tembusu Grand, okay? See, the land bid was 1302 PSF PPR. The plot right beside was sold to Simland in 2023 for 1069 PSF PPI, and that's a 17.9%, 18% difference in land cost, lower land cost. Another one, Pine Grove, right, that turned out to be Pinetree Hill, highest land bid 1318 PSF PPR. The plot right beside Parcel B, won by MCL in 2023, right, very recently, 1223, so a 7.2% drop in land cost. Now, how does this affect our analysis or the conviction that we have in the real estate market? Because the way we've been brought up to think is that land costs will continue to go up, hence property prices will continue to go up. Land cost is coming down. Does that necessarily mean prices are going to come down?